Hello everybody. So today we're doing something a little bit different than our usual. We're going over a mod that I found, and I actually wanted to get it to work on Linux, and I did, but I just figured I would show you how I did it, what we're using this for, and what game is obviously in the title, Monster Hunter Wilds. So as you know, for Wilds on PC, you've probably experienced the same crippling issue that many users in that review page has experienced. The spiky frame times and sudden jarring stutters, especially when turning the camera or going to a new area. This is a notorious problem in the RE engine, and it often hits users with 8 gigabytes of VRAM, the hardest. And not only that, but this may be something that we could also use for the Steam Deck. So today, we're going to fix that. We're going to use an essential community tool called Monster Hunter mhws-tex-decompressor to stabilize our frame timing, offload a massive task from our GPU, and ensure some smooth, consistent performance. Crucially, for Linux, we want a perfectly optimized way to run this natively. So let's get into it. So this on your screen right now is showing a little bit of gameplay actually from my hardware. And even with my hardware, you're gonna see some of these spiky frame times, right? So the problem isn't necessarily a lack of VRAM. I have 16 gigabytes of VRAM, which should be more than enough, right? But the issue is rather how the game itself handles its textures. So we have this thing called aggressive compression, right? So Capcom ships the game with textures heavily compressed, likely using GDeflator or something similar, but this is a great way for making the initial download size a bit smaller. However, with the optimizations that we have currently in place, I think it's best if we use a tool like this to sacrifice a little bit of storage for better frame time and a smoother experience. So let's just get right into it. First, you are going to need Reframework because that's what this uses, right? And that's what's going to make this work properly. So this is rather simple. You're going to go, again, this link will be in the description. You're going to go to this GitHub. You're going to download the Monster Hunter Wilds.zip, right? And then download it. Go to your file explorer, extract it. And then the next piece, we're going to want to go to our games directory. So we're going to open up Steam and we're going to find Monster Hunter Wilds, which is right there. Right click, properties, installed files, and then click browse. Okay. So now we've got this directory. I'm going to split this off. And the main thing you're going to need is this di input 8.dll. This is what basically makes the world spin. So I've already done it, but drag that in. Now, the other piece is the launch command. You really only need this and the %command% in order to get Reframework to run. However, if you're on an AMD card and want to use Proton FSR4 and are on the proper Proton version, you can upgrade to FSR4. Now, I have a 9070 XT. I use Proton FSR4, works perfectly. I've seen it work on the 6000, 7000 series. It's wonderful. So open up your game and then we're going to enable one more setting here. All right, so once you've launched the game, you should see something like this, right? You should see Reframework show up here. So the next piece is enable loose file loader. Once you've done that, you can go ahead and close the game. Now that that's out of the way, let's go ahead and open up your terminal. For me, I am on CachyOS Hyperland. This is obviously Arch Linux based, so our commands will be a little bit different. But first, we're going to need to get our good old friend Rust and Git. If you do not have that installed, we're going to install it now. So do sudo pacman -S space Rust and Git. I don't like entering multiple things when I'm installing things. Gonna need that sudo password. Thankfully, I have Git installed already. However, Rust is not installed, so let's go ahead and get that installed. Now, the next thing we're gonna need is, of course, the decompressor. Now, on Windows, you could just go in to the releases here on the GitHub page. This is going to be in the description as well. Download the decompressor and use it. And there's another method to this for Linux. You could run that application through Steam, but I feel like it's better to just run it directly off of your system. It's just less headache, right? So now what we're going to do is we're going to clone this repository, and then we're going to change the directory to that repository here. And now we are going to compile the repository. So that's cargo build -- release. And basically all this is pretty much creating the application for us. It's all straight from the repository. We're just building it. And then once this is done being built, we're actually going to run the application, let it decompress those files, and look at that, it already finished. So save you some yapping. The next piece, we're actually going to run the decompressor. So all of these commands are going to be in the description step by step, so you can follow along with me, but you can read or pause. So here we are. Here's the application, right? So we have 3 modes. We could do automatic, manual, or restore. Obviously, we haven't done it yet, so there's no reason to restore. Let's try the automatic version. So it warns us that make sure that our game is updated to the latest version and that we've uninstalled all mods. So let's hit enter. Now it needs our game's directory path. So for Linux, you can do this 2 ways. You can search for it, or you can just go over to Steam, Properties, Installed Files, and click Browse. Thankfully, I already have it up, so I'm just going to copy this and put it in over on the directory path. We're going to hit enter, select game locations to process. So these are already going. So those are all the basic chunks. These are the main issues here. The rest of these smaller files, we don't have to worry about because they're not actually graphic files that will be being processed by our computer. Now this right here, the DLC Steam, right? You can do this. However, I'm pretty sure currently the version of this mod does not work with the DLC textures, but we're going to be using high and or medium depending on your rig. Me personally, I'm using this for the high, so I'm going to leave this as is. Actually, I'm going to remove that DLC just to save myself some storage because that is 70 gigabytes and we're going to be compressing it, so you can imagine how much larger that will be. Hit enter, replace original files with uncompressed files. We want them to do this because we don't have to do any extra work and move files over, and this is going to automatically create a backup of our original files. So we're going to hit true and let the monster work. Yeah, you see what I did there? All right, I will see you when this is done. All right, so if all goes well, you should see this screen. So we're going to go ahead, press enter to exit, and we're going to launch our game. All right, so now we're in the game, and there should be a side-by-side comparison on your screen now. So as you can see, the frames are a little bit better, right? But the main thing is the timing. So if you look at that small little graph there, I'm actually going to zoom it in on both. You'll notice that it's a lot more stable with this version. Not only that, but it feels 1,000 times better. Now, just to note, I am not using FrameGen on either of these screens. So as you can tell, it obviously did work, and you would see a much larger performance jump if you were on a lower VRAM usage card. For me, I have a 16 gigabyte card, so it's much different. I did not change the settings. It's all the same, but I think with these settings, Monster Hunter Wilds was taking up probably around 10 gigs, I would say. But right now it's taken up about 7.6. That's on high. And the other thing you'll notice here is that when you change these settings, it actually does change both the game and your usage. So this is on the lowest, right? So game obviously looks rather chopped, right? But frames are roughly a bit better. Not worth the change in my opinion, but my top high and lowest lows are much better. As you can see there, I'm getting about 130 at the highest frame rate, and the lowest is about 60 to 80. So the 1% lows is what we're mainly concerned about, because we don't want a insane jump between our max FPS and our 1% low, because that 1% low we're gonna feel a lot more if it's lower. But I think that's about it for today, guys. Let me know down in the comments if this was helpful, and if you'd like to see more videos like this. I do plan on doing a lot more Linux-based videos. I would like to show more modding. Obviously, this was technically a mod, but it's more of a complex one. It's not as insane as some of the other things that I've done. I mean, most of the time you can use a mod manager, and I've got mod managers to work. So if you'd like to see a video on how to do that, I know there's a lot of modders out there, and there's a lot of people who like to mod their games. So let me know down in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next video.